everyone, and welcome to this week's Bring Your Own Project Live. Still getting a little set up here, but I hope you all are having a great... Here we go. Hope you all are having a great Wednesday. My name is Brittany Lewis. I'm a professional graphic designer and illustrator. And Sundays is the day that I work on my dream project, the Cosmic Gateways Tarot. And as has been for the last several Sundays, we're going to be picking right back up with the Four of Wands, which I've made some pretty great, decent strides in. I'm really excited about that. We're finally starting to sort of see the light at the end of the tunnel. But before we get into this Sunday's live stream, if you would like to support me in any way, shape, or form, the easiest way to do that is to hit the not the subscribe button, child, to hit the like button. But if you would like to see more, hey Montreal, I'm glad to see you. Hey, how you doing? If you would like to see more of these types of streams, be sure to hit the subscribe button. So if you would like to see more of these, I stream it twice a week on Wednesdays and on Sundays. Hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit the notification bell to be notified of any time I go live or post a new video. And I'm actually in the works of creating a new video specifically for our beginner digital artists. So I'm super excited about that. I've been sort of trying to organize my thoughts and make sure that I can make it as simple as possible for you guys to be able to jump into digital art if it's something that you are interested in, something that you're wanting to learn but not necessarily knowing exactly where to start. I am working on that, so I'm super excited about that. I have like typically when I'm doing a new video for like a standalone video, I like to like script my ideas because it helps me organize my thoughts. But in that, because I guess because I have been doing this for so long, sometimes I have to sort of simplify things, sort of make a conscious effort to make things more simple so that the very new digital artist can sort of understand how to get into the field, how to use the programs, what things you need to do to get into digital art, how it all works and all that. So I've been taking my time with that, trying to organize again my thoughts, trying to make sure that I can keep it as simple and as straightforward as possible, because it can become quite overwhelming explaining like the different hardware and the different software and all of the things that is needed just to be able to draw. Right, just to be able to draw, not even thinking about the skills. Hey Tennessee lady, I'm super happy to see you. How you doing? Happy to see you guys in the chat. Thank you so much for joining me. So whether you're watching this live or the replay, I really appreciate each and every one of you guys for being here. So again, today we're just gonna pick back up on the Four of what are we working on? Four of Wands. I have made some really great progress. So I think where we left off with this last Sunday, I was working on the male character, but Wednesday I sort of saved Wednesdays for doing all of the, like, I want to say minutia, but like the very minute details, all of the bits and pieces and all of those things that sort of take a long time, that are kind of tedious to work through. I did a lot of that on Wednesday. So I'm really, really happy about that. I don't think I'm going to bore you guys with it, but I will zoom in to show you what I did. So let me show you what I did. So this is how we're looking with the sketch on. I'm turning the sketch off so you can get a good idea of how this image is shaping up. I'm really, really happy with the way that this is coming along. Again, it's taking me a really long time to do. Now, over the last couple Wednesdays, I've been working sort of in this pink canopy area. To me, because I'm looking at it pretty close, it looks like a lot of blobs and squiggles, and I guess in truth, that's exactly what it is. However, when I zoom out, and also keeping in mind that this is going to be a car, it does give the illusion that there is a shadow created by the leaves and the trees and the bushes and all of the things that are part of this canopy. So to help me out, just so that I'm, of course, looking at the blobs and squiggles and all of those things, to make it make me feel a little bit better about it, I decided to work on the pink, or the sort of the top part. And again, looking super close to it, because oftentimes I'm working extremely zoomed in. It looks like blobs and squiggles again, right? And that's really all it is just sort of paint strokes and all that. I'm gonna zoom all the way in so you guys can see it. It's nothing fancy, nothing like that. I'm just kind of moving color around, mixing things where it needs to be. But if I zoom out, it does give the illusion of flowers. So that's exactly what I was going for. Really, really happy with the way that it was the way that it turned out. Now on that Wednesday stream, I ended up streaming like 3 hours. 3+ hours because I was completely in the zone. Anytime I'm working on something like this where it's a lot of details, where it's like I'm sort of moving things around and creating those illusions and all of that, I tend to get in the zone. And I probably could have streamed another 2 or 3 hours, but in that I wasn't taking a lot of breaks. I took a couple breaks, just kind of got up and moved around, helped my son out with some stuff he had going on, and so I was able to sort of rest my eyes. But anytime I'm like staring at the screen for 3 hours, I know a headache is coming just from eye strain. So I did not go beyond those 3 hours, but it was super easy for me to do. Anytime, again, I'm sort of in those details and to me, it's like putting together a puzzle. So anytime I'm sort of putting together the puzzle of this image and adding things in shadows and light and color and all of those things, I zone clean out. So it worked out really well. I was able to get quite a bit done in that 3 hours. Now, of course, in 3 hours if I was doing a portrait, I probably could have knocked the whole thing or at least 3/4 of it out in about 3 hours. But anytime I'm doing like really, really small, tedious details, they do take time. So it may not look like a lot, but I feel like I got quite a lot done. So I'm really pleased with that. Now, again, I'm not going to bore you guys with the tedium of going through all of those flowers and things like that. So what I will do is go ahead and begin to work again on our male character. I think where we left off, we were working on his hands. I'm not going to tackle his right hand just yet because in my reference, the way that I organized the two figures, his left hand is covered. I could probably fake it. I probably have enough information here to be able to fake it. But what I would probably do instead is open this file up where I put together my reference, and then just fix it so that I can see it. So then that way I can come back and deal with the details and all of that. All right, so we're going to get on into this. So this week, I think next week we'll probably stream. If I stream, I hadn't decided yet, but if I do stream, it'll probably be on Tuesday rather than Wednesday, and then we'll have the rest of the week to enjoy family and holidays and all of that. And then we may or may not be back Sunday. I'll just kind of see how I feel. I do like, of course, having the time set aside to work on this particular project, because any time during the week, unless it's a Wednesday, I'm usually sort of tied down with other things. So we'll see. I want to go ahead and knock this picture out so that we can move on, so that we can get the rest of these cards done, so that we can go to print at a certain point in my life before it's over with, right? And get these cards out to you guys. Again, I go back and forth. On the one hand, I'm really happy that it is taking me as long as it is taking me, because I can focus on making sure that I am creating the art that I actually want to see and to create and put out into the world. So I can put out a quality product because I'm not in a rush to do it. But I think some part of me still feels like, man, I cannot wait for this project to be out, to be able to read with these cards, to be able to show you guys who are interested in how to read with the cards and how to sort of understand symbolism and apply it to your life and all of that. I'm super excited about it, and so sometimes I can kind of get a little bit impatient with myself and then something will happen and it'll remind me that all things work out in divine timing. And so that's sort of where we are with it. I am very happy to be able to take my time. Again, I'm really taking my time on this card because I do not have anything prepared for the next set of cards yet. But I would like to see this done. Like, I want to see this done. We've been working on this for several live streams. I got to count to see how many weeks it's been. Now, to be fair, on Sundays, I don't really get a whole lot done because I'm usually running my mouth and talking 90 miles an hour. But I'm just sort of happy to be able to share the process with you guys so that you can have appreciation for how long things take, right? I think we've talked about the idea of instant gratification that a lot of people experience as they're hiring artists and as they're hiring graphic designers. Sometimes there's a disconnect between how long things actually take and how long the expectations of things should take, right? Even when you have someone with a lot of experience and all of that, everything takes time. And so being able to show you guys how much time an illustration takes, right, definitely feels like a bit of a good thing, just so that I can again create an appreciation around the medium. Because again, there's a common misconception, especially around digital art, that because it is digital, it is inherently faster. So we just push buttons and things are done. But of course, everything that appears on this screen, I had to draw it in, right? I had to actually put pen, and I work with a stylist This is my stylus. And of course, I have my glove that helps me glide across the screen. But every mark that you see on this image, I had to make. Right now, of course, there are some shortcuts. There are some things that make it a lot easier, especially making corrections, make that process a lot easier, as opposed to working with traditional mediums. So for instance, if I'm painting a portrait and I'm using acrylic paints, and let's say for instance I make a mistake and brush in the background and I have a dark mark on the background, I can't undo that with a click of a button. Right, I actually have to go over and paint it and blend it out and make sure that it is not showing through and all of that. So there are several different steps, but of course correcting mistakes digitally is a lot easier. It does have its drawbacks, right? You do have again, everything you you see is created by the artist, right? Oftentimes. And there are people who work slightly differently. They'll do different things to make their process easier, but it does take a good bit of skill, a good bit of time, and a good bit of patience in order to create whatever it is that you're after in your creation, right? So being able to show you guys the process of it, just a bit of the process, I think is nice, so that again, you guys can have a deeper appreciation for digital artwork, so that when you guys come to hire me for your projects, when I explain to you, certain things, you'll be able to have a video or something like that to match it up with. So, I ain't pulling your leg or I ain't just talking and all of that. Now, of course, as a professional, I would say 85 to 90% of the things that I do not necessarily involve actually creating, right? So as someone who is a freelancer, so I don't work with a company or anything like that, I take care of all of my marketing. I take care of all of my clients. I do all of the admin work. A lot of what I do revolves around communication, right? A lot of it revolves around communicating, sending out paperwork, balancing invoices, and all of that. A lot of that is happening, and then we get into the art. Right? So the art, for me, I guess because I've been doing it for so long, a lot of it doesn't take a lot of time, but that comes with just skill and practice. For many years it would take me forever to complete just the portrait. Right now I can knock a good portrait out in a couple of days if I'm not procrastinating. I think we did Lee's portrait on live. It took about 6 to 7 hours or so to complete. That's about average, but in that I'm not working on it 6 to 7 hours straight when I am hired to do a thing. So I have to manage my time. I have to manage my priorities and get all of that done, plus the communication, plus all of the admin stuff, and everything that comes with being a business owner and a creative, just a creative business owner in general, right? So again, being able to show you guys this part of it is a lot of fun. Now, if you are interested in the other part of that, sort of the administrative part of that, learning about what it is that I do on that end of it, if you would like for me to show you guys how I put together proposals and all of that, let me know. I will be more than happy to put that on the list of videos to make. I do again have a set of videos which teaches how to hire a graphic designer or illustrator if you are trying to hire a professional creative. Even for all of this applies to like photography, 3D modeling, anything within the creative field. What types of things to look out for, how to sort of do your due diligence when you're researching the creatives that you are going to hire, and that kind of thing. All of that sort of is listed in those videos. And I also have a few, not very many, I don't even know if I put them out yet, but I do have a few videos in the vault that speak to the artists, right? Because I think a lot of times, again, we see different videos on different things, but they rarely sort of go together. So anytime I see advice videos for people who are looking to hire creative professionals, it's usually not coming from the creative professionals, but it's coming from people who have hired them. And it's usually in the space of like a Fiverr or Upwork sort of platform. And for those of you who may not be familiar with Fiverr or Upwork, those are sort of job places where you can go and hire someone and they can create a book illustration for you. They can create vector graphics, flyers, that kind of thing. And it's usually priced extremely inexpensively, and I would say well below sort of the standard market pricing. So a lot of people utilize those sites because that's just where their budget is. And that's okay. That's perfectly okay. That's fair. That's fine. It's nothing wrong with that. But the trouble is that those experiences don't necessarily translate outside of those spaces, right? So if you're used to working on Fiverr and Upwork and you're used to sort of dictating certain things, it can be a completely different experience when you come to someone like myself, who is more collaborative in the way that I structure my projects with my clients, right? So it's not you can, you're hiring me, right? But you're not going to dictate to me how I'm supposed to do my job. That's not sort of how it works. So anytime I've seen sort of those kinds of videos, it'll be from that particular standpoint. Like, make sure, and that's valid for those platforms, right? So I'm sure that there's a whole culture over there where you have to sort of be able to speak in a certain way. However, when it comes to hiring sort of an individual, it works slightly different. And you want to make sure that you're getting sort of the best experience. So I created a couple of videos there. I still have more of those to do. So be looking on the lookout for those. But I have quite a few resources over there in this channel, sort of in the videos. And it's not because I don't put out videos very often in terms of like standalone videos, so they won't be very difficult to find. But if you're interested in sort of learning the logistics of how to hire a graphic designer or illustrator or photographer or anyone within the creative field, don't necessarily know how to approach them, don't necessarily know what to look out for, what is normal, what's not normal, those kinds of things, I would highly recommend checking out those videos. And those came from, the idea to do those came from having a couple of clients who were, again, used to those sorts of marketplace spaces. And one specifically was with I mentioned the network that I was working with that taught authors how to hire or how to work with how to publish their books, right? And then they had their own marketplace, and then they were teaching people how to work within that space, but it was still the same like Fiverr, Upwork type of culture. And so with someone like myself stepping in, it was very different having to explain copyright laws, right? Or having to explain why it's more expensive for me to sell my copyrights outright for you to have certain rights and things like that. And so a lot goes into that. But again, that was such an experience that I was like, you know what, I'm starting to notice that no one's really talking about it from the creator side of things, specifically from people who are freelancing outside of those marketplace spaces. Now, I ain't gonna say there's anything wrong with them. They didn't work for me. I did try them, especially when Fiverr first came out, because that was earlier in my freelance career. And to me, it made sense, right? It was like, okay, cool. If I'm getting clients this other way, I can also be in this marketplace space, and, I can have two sort of sources of income and ways to help and be hired and all of that. But to me, what I quickly learned was, because it is a global marketplace, if I am in Tennessee and my cost of living is a certain amount of money, I'm competing with people in places like India and Southeast Asia and South America and different places where their cost of living may not be as much. And so they may be able to afford to charge very little, where for me, I'm looking at it like I can't sustain a living, being charging this particular amount of money. And so it just didn't fit, right? It wasn't a good fit for it. And then again, you also run into sort of client behavior that is, to me, associated with that lower price point. Because what I found is that some of my cheapest clients, the people who didn't pay a whole lot, that didn't necessarily sort of just didn't pay a lot, right? They were some of the lesser expensive projects and things like that. Those were some of the worst experiences I've had. And I hate to say that, because I know that everyone's sort of budget is where their budget is. But I will say that when you are hiring a graphic designer and illustrator, wherever your budget is, that's going to sort of dictate the level of professionalism that you will have access to. So for me, I was like super top tier professional, but I was undercharging because I didn't know any better, right? When you know better, you do better. So I didn't know any better, but I was severely undercharging, and I was sort of making these correlations between the price and the clients that I was having access to. So just like a client has certain access to a particular level of experience, expertise with their budget, the same thing goes with artists. When you have sort of lower budgeted clients, that comes with a certain experience, right? And so I noticed that each time I raised my price, not only did I feel better, but I also had access to a different sort of level of client, and so on and so forth. So as a freelancer, as someone who has been, again, working at this for a really long time, made plenty of mistakes, learned a lot along the way, I'm sort of at a pretty comfortable place right now in the way that I charge. I am super lucky to attract the wonderful clients that I have. And I won't say that all of my lower budgeted clients were horrible. I've had just some of the worst ones were in the lower tier. And so, but I learned a lot, right? And those experiences certainly pushed my business forward, made me sort of reevaluate what was working for me and what was not, and then I can come to you guys and share those experiences so that you don't have to you don't have to go through that, right? You don't have to go through that. Now it is up to you, and I know some things we have to sort of go through in order for us to learn and to move forward and all that. Sometimes you have to kind of go through a storm, but if I can share something with you guys that'll help you along your way and along your creative journey, then that's my pleasure, right? That's what I went through it for. I always think about my ancestors, right? My great aunts, my great uncles, their parents, the parents before them. They went through certain set of hardships so that when I come around, and especially as I'm raising the next generation of children, right? They don't have to go through the things that my great aunts, granddaddies, grandmamas, and all of them went through. And so, same thing. I went through it so that you ain't got to go through it. And of course, we have resources available, such as the handbook for pricing and ethical guidelines that I showed last week. That's one of the greatest resources I can provide. And maybe I'll add that. I need to have a running list. That's what I need. I need to have a running list of videos I want to make, because that particular book is an excellent resource. And as time progresses and evolves, they involved in the information that they provide. So there's information in there about what to do when you have to do revisions and you don't know how to negotiate. There's negotiation clauses, there's mock contracts in that thing. There's all kinds of information there so that you, as the creator, for those of you who are creators, whether that's authors, photographers, whatever the case is, you can sort of catch up to the business sense that I feel like we should have gotten in art school, because that was one of the things that I didn't learn, right? I had to kind of learn it on my own through trial and error, through sort of making my own mistakes and going through all of that. That is kind of how I sort of came into the business acumen that I have. And I'm still learning, right? I don't have it all figured out. We have talked quite a lot this year about pivoting, and sort of because of the way that the world is structured now, a lot of creatives are having a very difficult time sort of staying afloat. Not everyone is, but a lot of us are, right? I'm one of those that will comfortably tell you that it's been a tough road since about 2023. I've had a hard time. Oh, I won't say not 2023. It was sort of like the end of 2023. So the bulk of the year was great, and then it slowed down. It just never did pick back up, right? So we're all sort of trying to figure out what to do next, what sort of way we can navigate the world as it is, and as it is evolving into, as things are changing, as systems are being dismantled, as new technologies are coming in and sort of threatening our place in certain spaces, right? So I think, speaking back to those lower budget clients, because a lot of artists sort of find themselves working in that arena, I think that a lot of those clients are turning to DIY ways of creating, and that's perfectly okay. I used to be the queen of DIY, right? If I couldn't afford to hire someone to do it, I would learn to do it myself. So I completely understand that notion. So it is a matter of us figuring out how to either reach those same clients in a different capacity to sort of prove our value to them, or just to sort of reach a different set of people. So in all of the marketing that I've studied and all of the classes that I've taken, one of the main things that I've come to learn is that you want to figure out how you can best service a person, who that person is, like that specific, you need to paint a picture of who that person is, right? And figure out how you can speak to them, how you can service them, how you can make their lives easier, what product you can sell to them that they will enjoy, and all of those things. So that is something that you want to sort of keep in mind as you move forward and as you pivot. So that is something just sort of I've been navigating. And again, I'm still learning as I go. I'm certainly not an expert in this. So anything that I learn, I'm more than happy to share. So what I'm doing now is I actually have a couple of references. I flipped through them a little bit earlier, but we got a couple references. So here's my main reference, right? This is my main reference that we've been working in, because for the most part we've been working in the background, and this is helping me with the lighting of our characters. So I've been able to sort of place the noses and the eyes and the ears of both of my characters based on this particular reference. Now, when I went to draw the suits, because they're jumping, what I did was I went to find some images of people jumping the broom, right? And in that, I wanted to see sort of, I studied not necessarily them, not just them jumping, I'll say, not just them jumping, but I wanted to pay attention to what their bodies were doing as they were jumping, right? So I knew I wanted to have my guy, my groom, with his hand up. So I went and found a couple of references. Now, this first reference is of a young man who is jumping over the broom. I used this reference to draw the pants of my character, right? Because I needed to know what the knees do when you jump, what do the feet do, how do they angle down, all of that. So I got this information from my from this particular reference, right? And I was able to again pose my character the way that I wanted him posed, match him up as close as I could to one of these jumping references, and then use the references for different things. So I have about 3 of these images. Now this is the one that I used for the most part when it came to drawing the jacket, because again, I have my character with his hand up. His fingers are slightly different and all of that, but I want to use this to be able to see where my shadows go for his jacket and his vest. There is a little bit of a gap because as he's raising his arm, the vest is sort of moving with him. And so I used all of this information in order to draw this particular pose for this particular character. So I got sort of from his right shoulder all the way over to his left hand from this character. I don't recall how I did the, I think I just posed the characters together to get his arm to go back. So I kind of make that up as I go, trying to add shadow and light where it makes sense. But for right now, what we're going to do is add some information to the jacket of this character so that we can go ahead and start filling things in. Now, I have to keep in mind that the lighting of this is that he has light. The chest of these characters is going to be very light, and I can go back and check things as I feel I need to. But for right now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a layer on top of this. I'm going to select the jacket so I don't make sure I don't draw outside of it. And then what I'll do is, let's see, is it going to work for me? There it is. What I'll do is I'll add some information on top and then we'll go from there. All right, so again, I hope y'all are doing well. I hope that in this year, I know it's been real tough again for a lot of people. I hope that you all are sort of managing things. I think that with us, with a lot of people, I don't know, I have my own conspiracy theories about how things are playing out. But one thing I will say is that oftentimes, times like this is really when you start to see people be resilient, right? So I think acknowledging that we don't have all of the answers, acknowledging that we don't necessarily know what's going on, and then just sort of maintaining life day to day, I feel like is an accomplishment in and of itself. For me, and I'm gonna say this, I don't know if I've said it before, but I'll say it here. I think that this year, in the coming years, is going to be the best time to sort of lean into your dreams, right? Maybe I have said this before, but it's the best time, in my opinion, to lean into your dreams. Why? Because everything else is falling apart, right? You have people who are losing their jobs. You have grocery prices. I don't know. I guess it depends on where you shop at, because I shop at Aldi, and Aldi got it going on. so grocery prices are doing what grocery prices do, and so you have all of these things sort of happening at the same time. So there's a lot, right? There's a lot of change going on. A lot of people's benefits are being threatened to be taken away, and all of that. We got all of this stuff happening, right? In the midst of all of that, you guys know that I am pro sort of make time for the things that you want to do in life, because this is the time to do that. You might as well. If nothing else is sort of going right the way that you want it to go right, and things are sort of happening strangely, you know what I mean? Stuff is just not happening in the way that it used to. Things are not working out the way that they used to. I think now is, hey, draw sketchbooks. So listen, I'm so happy to see y'all so happy to see you too. Go ahead on. But now is the time to sort of lean into that. So if you have a dream of going to school to learn a certain skill, go to school and learn it. As a matter of fact, FAFSA is open now. So go ahead and apply for your FAFSA so you can get some financial aid. If you can help it, stay away from student loans. But if you can't, do what you got to do. But now is the time to sort of do that, right? So that next year you can spend next year building those skills, learning new things, and sort of accomplishing your goals, if that's something that you want to do. If it's a matter of starting a new business, again, with business, make sure that you know exactly who it is that you're servicing and how you can best be of service to those people. If you're doing a service or a product, either way, right? Because that's really what business kind of boils down to. Either you're offering a service, or you're selling a product, or you're doing both, right? But you want to be able to be creative about how you approach those things, because again, the things that used to work no longer is working, right? You have 1,000 people selling courses for all kinds of things, right? So are courses effective? I don't know. But you want to sort of find your pocket in society and find your pocket in the way that things are going and just lean into it. Even if it's on the weekends, even if it's every now and again, even if it's just as you can here and there, maybe once a week or once a month, whatever the case is, be sure to sort of lean into those things. So I mentioned last week that we had gone to a photography club here in Memphis, because I got all kinds of hobbies. Let me just say that. I do all kinds of stuff, right? But photography is one of those things that I consider a hobby. And I had mentioned I bought my film camera. My son was like 3, and I found some of the original pictures, and he was a baby. So I've had that film camera since he was a baby. He's 14 now, so it's been at least 14 years that I've had that. So I've always loved photography. So we found us a little photography club to go to. And what I found so inspiring about that was that you had photographers within that club who were of many different ages. So it ranged from teenagers all the way up to older women. And everybody was in there sort of learning a new skill. I think the way that this particular club is structured is that every month they do like a presentation, and then, you go off. And I think the coordinator of this club mentioned that she wanted to be able to put up a showcase so that everyone can show off their photographs, that kind of thing. Just being around other people who are sort of share a common interest, whether they're doing it professionally or they're doing it as a hobby, I think feels great. Right? It sort of lightens the load. It lightens the load, and again, you're getting exposure to things that you may not have had exposure to, and you can kind of enjoy that, right? It gives you a little bit of respite from having to worry about bills and worry about rent and whatever else that we have to worry about. So find yourself something like that, if that's what you're into, right? Find yourself a group of people that you can sort of grow and challenge to be better and grow with. Now, if you're coming across people who are putting you again in situations that's not helpful, right? It's not sort of helping you move forward in any positive, meaningful way. Get out of those situations. It's not hard to just get up out of there, right? You want to sort of be very deliberate, because you can be deliberate. You're not at the mercy of whatever's put in front of you. You can be very choosy about what you do with your time, right? The people that you give your time and energy to, that's up to you. You could do that. So if over here there's something that you want to learn, again, I mentioned there's a video that I'm working on now that is I want to take whoever's interested in digital art to the very beginning, right? We're going to the very most basic principle of digital art, which really comes down to 2 things: your hardware and your software. That very first video, we're going to talk about hardware and software, meaning what you draw on and the programs that you draw in. So if there's something that you're interested, stay tuned over here. If there's something that I can help you with any skill that I have, I'm more than happy to share that with you. Again, if you would like to learn more about hiring graphic designers or illustrators, or being hired as a graphic designer or illustrator, let me know, and I'll go on the list. That'll go on the list of stuff that we talk about as we move forward, resources and things like that. Now, one of the things that I wish I knew more about was how to get creative grants. I have gotten 3, I think, so far. Those were local grants that were, I think, sponsored by Arts Memphis. 2 of them had to do with the emergency fund during the pandemic because, of course, that was a lot of people were hit by that, myself included, not able to sort of work and maintain in the arts as we used to. The local organization here had some grants available, and they had those, and I applied for them. Thankfully, I won, and that was how I was able to get some of the equipment that I have for my practice. So that is something that I wish I knew more about, and maybe what I will do in the future, just sort of making a mental note, is find out more information about that so that I can share it with you guys. What I'll see in that realm is that people will have the information, and then like they'll hide it behind a paywall, or they'll be like, oh, you could just Google it and just say the third. But I think sometimes it's just easier to have all of the information organized in a way that people can digest it. That doesn't mean dumb it down. That doesn't mean sort of do all of the work for people, but just sort of point folks in the right direction is always helpful. But from what I know of grants, I know that oftentimes our states will have like a statewide art program. I think Tennessee Arts is one of them here, where you can apply for grants. And then within your city, there may be organizations within the city that specialize in that. Again, my grants, the 3 that I've gotten, have come from the city Arts Memphis, or not the city, but like a arts organization within the city. And so that's just something to keep out for. But as I learn more about that, I will be more than happy to share again some of that information sort of as I learn it, so that again you ain't got I'm anti-gatekeeping. I ain't gonna say I'm anti-gatekeeping. When it comes to sort of resources that I feel like can help people, I'm anti-gatekeeping that. Right? I feel like there are things that should be gatekept, especially when it comes to like spiritual systems and things like that. Like clearly there are some stuff that you should keep to yourself, right? However, I think in terms of like resources to help people in whatever field they're in, gatekeeping that serves absolutely no one but self, right? So if I can provide that information for you, if I know it, I'm gonna provide it. I'll give you a great example. There's a guy I know that I worked with, did a comic book for a couple years ago, who is making a film. I got an email from Arts Memphis again, and they had a grant for filmmakers. And I don't know if he knew about it, but I knew that he was making a movie. So to me, I was like, hey, here's this grant. I know I ain't talked to you in a minute, but here go this information. I hope this helps. That's me all day, every day, right? I don't have absolutely no qualms about helping people, because I know that there are people out there who have helped me, right? And then there are people who are out there who have refused to help. And so I don't want to be that person. I want to make sure that if it's something that I can do for you guys, if I can point you in the right direction, then I am more than happy to do that. And I think that's why I did or wanted to become the Southern Regional Rep for the Guild, because I was sold on the fact of being able to help people within my region. And the Southern region is huge. I think it encompasses like 11 states and then everybody south of the border, Mexican border, or the Mexican-American border, everyone south of there fell within the Southern region. So just to be able to work within that, my goal was to be able to, at the very least, bring people in that may not have known that organization existed. Of course, my tenure is up. I had a good run. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot in the Guild. I learned a lot about running a nonprofit, which was really interesting. And also just sort of being again in that space where you're around other creatives, juices up creativity, I feel, right? So if you can get into a space where you can be around other people who are doing the thing that you want to do, that you're interested in, whether that's tech, whether that's writing, whether that's again photography, movie making, whether that is drawing or sculpting or whatever the case is, anytime you can kind of get around people who are also doing that thing, it's going to boost your creativity tenfold, right? So I know there's a lot of debate between whether or not people should go to art school. I feel like that's a preference, but I think one of the strengths of going to art school is that you have peers around you who are also learning to be artists. The problem with art school is I feel like it doesn't necessarily prepare you for life outside of art school. So that's where if you're in school, if you're in college, you have to be very deliberate about the kinds of classes that you take. Now, one thing I will say, even though I just didn't know, but I didn't take as many classes as I wish I had, is that I was always doing things that I felt was somewhat related to what I was studying, right? So my major was graphic design and I had a minor in illustration. and of course now professional graphic designer and illustrator. But it was not required of me to take advertising classes, but I would take an advertising class, right? It was not required of me to, I think it was maybe required to take printmaking, but I think you could like choose what kind of class you took in terms of your electives in the creative field. I took printmaking because it made sense to me. I took a lot of painting classes because that was something that I was very interested in. And I knew that my style, or the style of graphic design that I was developing at that time, leaned heavily into my enjoyment of drawing, right? Now, not all graphic designers can draw, and it's not necessary to be a graphic designer. You don't have to know how to draw to be into graphic design. But I feel like it was very handy. It was something that helped me out a whole lot. And it is something that when I'm able to do graphic design for people, I'm able to sort of sneak in illustrations, and it's just the whole thing. I love it, right? That aspect of it anyway. But what I wish I had done, I just didn't know to, was I wish I had taken business classes. I wish I had taken, now I think here at the University of Memphis, they have a entrepreneur, how do they put it? It's not a major, but it's like concentration. So if you got a business degree, you can concentrate on entrepreneurship, which I think is really cool. And I think it is very much of the times because of the job market and the way that the things seem to cycle through, right? Had I been aware that that kind of thing was necessary for me to learn, I would have absolutely learned business, right? It would have made a whole lot of sense for me to do, in my humble opinion. So if you are of college age and if you are trying to decide whether or not you go to college, a lot of people will tell you art school is not worth it. I just feel like it depends on what you want out of it, right? So if you're just trying to sort of learn to draw, it just depends. You can draw on your own. There are all kinds of classes and groups and courses that you can purchase and do it individually, but nothing sort of replaces being in a collective of people who are learning to build the same skill. I think that that's a huge, that makes a huge difference. It also teaches you to take criticism. So I think that is something I just witnessed as I'm online. I think a lot of times I don't, because most of my online presence is business anyway, but as I'm sort of watching interactions with artists and people who are sort of sharing their art and all of that. Now, there is sort of a weird, I don't know, there's sort of a weird environment around criticism, good or bad, right? And on the one hand, I do understand that unsolicited criticism don't nobody want to hear that, right? But I think oftentimes what I'll see is that people sometimes will ask for criticism, and then as you are offering advice to how to fix things, they'll sort of get a little bit defensive about it. In art school, that was one of the things that I am proud to have gone through, because it teaches you how to defend your choices. That's a good way to put it. It teaches you how to defend your choices, but also how to take criticism to improve, right? So there's a little bit of a balance that has to happen. So when I am on the rare occasion that someone says something odd about the work that I do, I don't even take it as personal, right? It's just like, I asked myself a check-in. I was like, okay, are they right or are they just talking? A lot more often than not, they just talking, or it's personal opinion. Or, it's not necessarily, I don't necessarily agree with it, but sometimes you'll get criticism that if I am being objective and sort of taking my emotion out of it, I can say, okay, cool, maybe I'll try that next time, right? And so that is one of the things that I feel like art school definitely helped. Now, I'm saying art school very loosely because I went to a traditional 4-year college. I just concentrated in the arts. But there are schools that are dedicated specifically to art. Again, if you're looking into going, even as an adult, I'm saying if you're looking to going to college, but I'm not speaking just to people who are graduating high school soon or thinking of switching majors, but anyone who is thinking of going and studying art in a very traditional setting, what you put into it is what you get out of it. That's sort of been my experience. So when I went to 2 colleges, I went to the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, and then I went to University of Memphis here in Memphis. And in both instances, I would meet people who was my age, right, who would only want to concentrate on whatever the written path was. So if it said I needed to take drawing, English, math, an elective or whatever the case is, that's all they would take. They weren't necessarily exploring anything outside of what was required of them. The way that I did my college experience was that I would take the stuff I was required to take, but also I was thinking about the long run. as far as I could see it, right? So I would take advertising class. I would take mythology classes. I took classes in mythology. I was taking African American studies and African studies and painting and all of these different things that didn't necessarily directly correlate to graphic design or illustration, but they were things that I was interested in and things that I felt like would help me in the long run, sort of give me a broader view of the world. So that's how you have to approach it if you're going to school, right? If you're going to take up something, even if you're studying on your own, of course, sometimes we don't know what we don't know. So sometimes we don't know exactly what to look into, what to study, how to approach different things. But ask questions, right? Sort of keep your mind open to things outside of your immediate sort of purview, right? Your immediate point of view. Sort of look at things outside of it, because strangely enough, it's all connected. I find anyway. So you'll see influences of some of my favorite folk tales from African American studies. I remember I had a professor, Dr. Hall, at the University of Tennessee. He was like hands down the best professor in the whole world, because the way that he would teach wasn't necessarily of books, but it would be stories, right? He would straight teach us stories. And so he would have books and stuff like that, but he would discourage, you ain't gotta buy that book. They just wanted me to add that book to the list as part of the job. Dr. Hall was good people, but he taught us through stories. And so I learned a lot through that. And you'll see some of that pop up in my artwork. Even the books that I read a lot of fantasy, I read a lot of nonfiction, but I also read a lot of sci-fi and fantasy. You'll see a lot of that pop up in my art. So you'll get these influences from all over the place. And I feel like that gives you that gives your work your own very unique perspective. And that's important, right? Because otherwise, a lot of people's art looks the same, right? A lot of people fall into a sort of a box, especially when it comes to, and I'm going to speak specifically to African American centric art. A lot of it falls into a trauma box, right? So it very much emphasizes trauma in a way that we've seen it a lot, right? And it is important to show. And it's definitely important to bring eyeballs to, but at the same time, I feel there's a need to go beyond that, right? So what is a different way we can tell the same story, right? What is a way that we could tell the story that reaches the people who are coming up who may not even be familiar with the things that we grew up learning, right? Or how can we sort of begin to create artwork outside of a certain narrative? And so a lot of that will come from just experiencing the world outside of what you can immediately see. And again, that gives your work a very unique perspective. And I think it becomes a superpower. So if you're in studying art, even if you're studying on your own, just be on the lookout for things outside the norm, right? Outside of what you're learning in your courses and in your classes, and go from there. I think that'll become a huge strength. Also, buy art books, right? So you see an artist or a movie that you like. Usually with movies, they'll have books that'll show like costume design and, character design. And sometimes they'll have storyboards and things like that. Buy those books. Pick those books up. You can even go to the library and check them out sometimes. But just look at that kind of thing. Watch different kinds of movies. Listen to different kinds of stories and different people's perspectives. Go talk to your elders, right? Go talk to Granny. She needs somebody to talk to. Go talk to Granny. Go talk to Granddaddy. Go talk to your aunts and uncles, and just sort of speak to them about their experience. And then that becomes a part of your sort of mental catalog of things that you can draw from. So that's how I approach artwork. I like to put a lot of myself into it because, again, I always say that this particular project is like a self-portrait, right? I always say that the Cosmic Gateways Tarot is definitely a self-portrait, and it is a collection of my own experiences. It is a collection of things that I see around me, right? But you want to do that. You want to make art that's incredibly, you ain't got to. You want to make art that is personal, but you don't have to, of course. But at least resonate with the things that you put out. Again, as artists, especially in sort of the convention space where we are creating art that we want to sell, sometimes we fall into the trap of creating what we think sells. Now, there are things that sell extremely well. Fan art is one of those. Depending on the fan art, things that are trendy sell extremely well. When it comes to different cultures, different narratives sell extremely well. Going back to like trauma within the African American community, that type of art tends to sell extremely well. And I've seen a lot of AI art, unfortunately, sell extremely well. I think it's just easily digestible for certain people. But you want to be able to capture whatever it is your experience reflects, right? And in doing so, you will attract people who will resonate with that, because we're not anomalies, right? Chances are that if you have a certain point of view, there's something that you want to see, something that you want to create that you haven't seen created, chances are there's someone else looking for that exact same thing. So I say that to say, create the things that you want to do. But while we're in this sort of stagnation in the world, while things are sort of being dismantled and changing at a very rapid pace, take the time to do the things that you want to see, right? Take the time to make the things that you want to do. If you want to go into tech, what part of tech can you, or what part of you can you add to tech that will make it easier for the average person? Or if you're going into writing a novel, what kind of novel can you create that is, of course, with novels, there are tropes and things like that. So there's always going to be a little bit of overlap. But what story can you tell that hasn't been told yet, right? Or how can you elaborate on a story that has been told? So you kind of have to ask yourself those things and be very deliberate about how you move forward as a creative in whatever field you choose to create in. Now, what I'm doing is I had some colors here that I was sort of going with in terms of adding the details to his suit, but I was pulling from my reference, and the reference is a lot cooler than I would like to go, but the black of his suit is a lot warmer. So rather than lean into that cool tone from my reference, I decided to use my actual like suit flat as a starting point, and then I can kind of adjust lights and darks and go from there. I can add saturation and all of those things, and then I can piddle with it. Whether it works or not, I don't know. We'll see. But again, we want to approach this from a very playful perspective. I don't want to take myself too seriously when it comes to anything that I create, because I think that takes the joy out of it. Again, as someone who does this for a living, a lot of the times as we're sort of going through the administrative process, it does suck a little bit of the joy out of creating. I ain't gonna lie, it does. And so when you have people who will like ask you to draw them for free, you get a little testy about it, because like, no, I'm not gonna do that, right? But in doing that, the balance is not taking yourself too seriously. Hey, Black Z2, come on now, listen, our favorite folks in the chat, come on. Super happy to see all of you guys. So I'm just sort of moving color around. I don't know if any of this is going to work, but we'll kind of see how that goes, and then we'll just kind of play it by ear. But I want to use my reference as sort of a blueprint. Not only this guy, but like the reference with the 3D models as a blueprint. And I just want to have fun. Like I said, Wednesday when I ended up streaming for like 3 hours, I was doing so because I was having a lot of fun, right? I don't know for you guys who watch it or just coming in. I like play back through it, skim back through it, and my headphones was moving like Ray J hat. I don't know if you guys have seen that video. Ray J with his hat is all over his head. I had headphone here, it's like moving the thing around. But I was having so much fun doing it because it was just an easy time. I wasn't really taking it too seriously. Again, because I was super close to it, it didn't necessarily look immediately the way that I thought it would. But again, because I was just enjoying the process, it didn't matter. Right? I could sit and work on that thing for another hour or two. I literally could have just probably sat and finished this whole thing until my eyes started to burn. But I decided to force myself to take a break. But that's kind of how it goes. You kind of have to find the fun and the joy in whatever it is that you're doing. But that's where making time for it really becomes important, right? Because you can easily burn yourself out. You could do it so doggone easy, from worry, from trying to sort through life, from adulting, right? From taking care of your family to grocery shop. for all of the things that we have to do as adults, it's very, very easy to sort of focus and hone in on those things and forget the world around you, right? Forget to sort of look at the sunshine. And I tell you, fall is my favorite time of the year. And I went out the week that we went doing photography. It was so beautiful and orange and warm. And it was just like, man, I needed this, right? We needed to kind of get out the house that day. And so you kind of have to make time for those kinds of things. And again, if I can service you in any way in that, right? Helping you to make time, helping you to become sort of creative and lean into those things, let me know, and don't be shy about it. I ain't gonna bite you, and I'm not gonna let anybody over here bite you. Right? We don't run that kind of ship. But if you are interested in learning more and growing more and sort of doing it together, right, I would love to have you here to do it with me, so that we can figure this thing out together. Right? Sometimes I think it becomes very lonely, and maybe that's where the overwhelm comes, because a lot of times we feel like we're sort of tackling life by ourselves, and a lot of times we are, right? But anytime you can find a community of people, whether it's in your local community or it is online, sometimes you just got to find friends online, right? That's just how it goes. If it's online or if it's, within a community that you build, you kind of, it just helps to be around, again, people that you can kind of relate to and build with and grow with. And all of that makes such a huge difference in how far you go in life, I feel, right? And again, we talked about networking across. That was the way. I always go to the side, but if you network across, you want to network to people who are sort of moving up with you, because sometimes the people who are way up here we just don't have access to. But if we can figure things out together, I feel like that's where a lot of people are going to shine in the coming years. Just building community, right? Being open to it, not gatekeeping resources, which to me is so ridiculous. Why? What other, aside from the people who are doing it for like their, they have their paywall. And I get it, make your money. But at the same time, like, why though? You know what I mean? Why is that the way to do it? So again, if I have resources and things like that, I'm more than happy to share them with you. So yeah, on the video list, I'm gonna need to write it down before I forget. We'll do a run through of books specifically that I find extremely helpful for creative entrepreneurs, or just creatives in general. Also, I think some of these books are handy for people who are wanting to hire creatives, right? So let's say, for instance, on the off chance you want to start a movie studio in your town and you want to specialize in, I don't know, sci-fi movies or something like that, and maybe you don't know enough of the business to know how to hire, how to charge, how to pay, what terms you work with in copyrights. A lot of these books will help you in that as well. So it's not just for creatives. I feel like for the company that I mentioned, where they teach people to do their books and they do it from the standpoint of hiring from Fiverr and Upwork, I think they would have benefited greatly, right, from having that kind of resource to be able to say, okay, well, this is how they typically work outside of these spaces, so maybe we should teach from this perspective. All of that's handy. But yeah, if there's something I can help you with, y'all, just let me know. I don't mind. You guys can send me emails. I'm a little bit slow with emails here lately, but I will get them. So just be patient with me. But if you want to send me a DM, I'll get your DM and we can go from there. Maybe I can, again, point you in the right direction. And then if I don't know, maybe we can learn it together. Maybe I know an artist, because at this point, I know quite a few. So maybe I know an artist who can help you figure that out, right? If they're willing, maybe they'll speak to you. So yeah, we have to sort of work together. We have to get very creative about how we approach, growing and how we define success, which is going to be very important, because everyone's idea of success is not going to be the same. So as we move forward, as again systems are being dismantled, that's going to become very important as well, because your idea of success may not be my idea of success. My idea of success may not be your idea of success, right? But we sort of have to put words to those things. We have to sort of figure out what that means for us and then move forward. So behind the camera here, there's a list that I made. I was in a class. I be taking classes too. I was in a class many years ago with Biddy Tarot, who has a class that is like growing your business online, right? And so one of the steps that she had us do was to create a success statement. So I look at this success statement every single day. And some of it I have actually been able to accomplish. One of them is being able to be selective about the kinds of projects that I take. So it was a time where I would just take whatever, if it didn't matter what you was doing. I was so hungry. I wanted to serve and help everyone. So it was to a point where if you came across my desk and you asked me to do a project, I didn't care what it was. I was taking it. Right? And at that time, that was okay for me to do. Nowadays, that's not necessarily how I would define success. To me, success for me is being able to say, all right, I have all these projects. This is the one that I think I'm going to zone in on, because I don't think I'd be a good fit for that one, even though I've done that kind of work before. And they're offering, they're being fair about what they would like to pay, but I really feel more in tune and aligned with this one. To me, that's the idea of success, just being very selective about what kinds of projects that I work on. Also having clients that value my experience and expertise, which I have had. So I feel like in that aspect, I'm very, very successful. Being able to share and give resources without, I don't expect nothing back. I just want to be able to share because I want to. That to me defines success, because a lot of times when we're hungry and trying to get it for ourselves, it's very difficult to be able to see that we can help other people, because we just don't have it. We don't have time. Cannot give you what we do not have. So to be able to have gone through as much as I've gone through career-wise, and to be able to share that with you guys, to me that is an aspect of my success, right? Money is of course a part of it. Now I hadn't gotten there yet, right? But we're gonna get there. But that's sort of not the most important aspect to my idea of success. But for you, your idea of success may be, okay, I need to make $150,000 a year. That's me. I'm successful. As soon as I get there, I know I'll be successful. So whatever that thing is for you, it's good to make a list from it, and then make it, as you're doing it, make it as a statement. So it's like writing an affirmation. So instead of saying one day I will, maybe you say, this is my success statement. I currently pick and choose the best projects that are suited for me, right? That's success for me. I make $150,000 a year. That's success for me. My house is paid off, right? I have clients who are flying in from all over the world to see me. That's success for me. Whatever your thing is, write it in the affirmative. Write it as in it's happening right now. Write it as if you are living that success picture right now, and post it somewhere you can see it. So this one I have not read in a while, but I do see it. Every time I'm looking at y'all, I'm looking at it because it's directly behind the camera. So you do that, and then that way you can sort of, again, put words to it, right? So sometimes we can have a very broad view. We'll say I want to be successful, but we don't necessarily know exactly what that means. So define it for yourself, right? Write it down, define it for yourself, put it in the present tense. If you want to read it to yourself, the best times I find when I have affirmations and things like that I'll write down for a goal is I'll read it right before bed. Like I'm talking about right before bed, right? So that it's fresh on my mind as I go to bed. And then also right before I get out the bed. So I'll get out the bed, read my little success thing, and then I'm ready to start the day. And I feel like what that does, ain't no feel like to it. What it does is it programs you to go for that thing, right? So if you're going to bed with the notion that, okay, I'm making $150,000 and that feels so good, right? That feels so good. I can buy whatever I want. I ain't got to worry about grocery prices, right? I do not have to worry about rent. All that's paid for. You go to bed with that. What happens for me, and then we're going to tread into a little bit of woo-woo territory. For me, what happens is that I oftentimes dream about sort of the next step, right? I'll get messages in dreams. I'll see things in dreams. Or it's maybe about 1-2 o'clock in the morning, I'll wake up with an idea just like that. And I'll have that idea. And if I do not write it down, oftentimes I will lose the idea. So what I do is I keep a little notebook next to the bed. If I feel like it, I'll get up and go write it down somewhere so that while it's fresh on my mind so that I have it. Then I go on back to sleep. But if I go to bed with those things in mind, right, I've already set the stage for success because I'm defining it for myself. I'm feeling like I got it already, right? From there, you do those things, and then you'll begin to work on autopilot, where you'll put yourself in situations where that becomes more accessible to you, right? So again, one of the things that I had is that I wanted to be able to work on projects that I was aligned with. And so that was one of the ideas that I had a long time ago, because again, I was taking whatever came across my desk. I didn't care what it was. I didn't care if it was commercial or non-commercial. I didn't care if it was for a little boutique, or if it was somebody who was calling me just on the random because they wanted a random logo. It didn't matter. It did not matter whatsoever, right? But as soon as I decided I'm going to be very selective about the projects that I take, no sooner as I made that decision, I think 2. I did the Sacred Sister Circle logo for D. Ray Wise, Dream Wise's wife, and then shortly after that, I did a series of t-shirts for them. And that was all within the realm of stuff that I wanted to work on, right? In terms of subject matter and things like that. The end product didn't really matter, but it was within the sort of category that I wanted to work, because I was aligned in that space. And so it just worked out that way. So again, you have to sort of make that decision for yourself. Again, we feel like, because of the way that we've come up in the world, because of the way the world looks currently, right? Because of the things that we were taught when we were in school, a lot of times we feel like our lives are at the mercy of things that are outside of us, but everything kind of starts with you, right? So even if you're feeling like there's something that you want to do and you don't know anybody around you who is doing that thing, or you feel like, who am I? And I know, speaking from experience, right? I sometimes have these inner monologues, and sometimes they be dialogues. Sometimes I have these conversations with myself, and I'm like, who the heck am I to do a certain thing? Sometimes you just sort of have to go for it anyway, right? You have to kind of believe in yourself enough to do it and just go for it, because more often than not, the only person who's standing in our way is us. We the only people, right? I don't care what you got going on right now. I don't care what the world looks like outside of your front door. More often than not, the only people who are holding us up and holding up our progress in life and stopping us from moving forward in any way, shape, or form, wherever you want to go, right? It's often us. And it often comes down to our own fears, our insecurities, and all of the things that we tell ourselves on a day-to-day basis. So you begin to tell yourself something different, right? Do that before bed. Try it. Just try it. Make yourself a list of stuff you want to do with your life, and read that list off to yourself right before, I'm talking about before you close your eyes and drift off into the next world. Right? Read that stuff off to yourself, and then when you open those eyes again, read it off to yourself as a reminder in the morning, and things will begin to shift and to change. You'll start to draw people to you who will help you and who want to help you. Right? They ain't taking no for an answer. They want to give you these resources. They want to sort of point you in the right direction, or you'll see stuff just on a whim. On a whim, you'll see things that'll align with the stuff that you want to accomplish. I find that to be very true. I've certainly had that happen to me on more than one occasion. So sometimes we sort of forget about our own power, forget about our ability to shape and change our lives as we want them to, because of however things have gone up to that point. But you have the power within yourself to do that. So I challenge you. I'm going to challenge you here today to do it for yourself, and just do that as an experiment. Write your stuff down. Define what success means for you. Write it down, and then read it to yourself. Let's say for the next couple weeks, right? Read it to yourself for the next couple of weeks and see how you feel about it after those couple of weeks, right? And then don't just leave it to chance. Again, we sort of leave things to the outside world to sort it out for us. Start to make steps towards that thing, right? So again, make time to do the stuff that you want to do. You don't know until you know, right, what it is that you want and what you don't want. But if you do know what you want, you do know what you don't want, you know what success looks like for you, make that list, and then start to work towards that idea of success and see where it goes. And then report back to me, because I'm curious. I want to see how it go for you. So what I'm doing now is I'm just kind of going back and forth. I am trying to find where this little piece is so I can erase it. Now, one of the things that I love about Clip Studio Paint, sometimes we'll paint something on a layer and then you have to go through 1,000 layers to find it. Clip Studio has this thing where you can actually click on it and it'll take you to the layer. There it is right there. It'll take you to the layer that this thing is on. And what I'm looking at, it looks like this little piece is in the sketch. So I'm just going to erase it. Is it? Maybe not. Nope. Let's try it again. It'll take you to wherever this layer is. There it is. And then you just erase it. Nope. It didn't work. Come on now. Maybe let me turn off. Let me do this. Typically, it'll take you to wherever you need to go. So if I turn that off, does it go away? It does not. Now let's try it. Otherwise, I'd have to sort through a whole bunch of, there it is. I had to sort through a whole bunch of layers and stuff like that. There we go. All right. And then I'll have to sort of find where it is. And it takes a lot, but Clip Studio does have a tool that helps. So that's one of the powers, I would say, of digital artwork. We do have things that kind of help you find stuff on the page. So I think this is his shirt. So I'm going to click that again just because I don't know where the layer is. There it is. And then we're going to fill this in. And of course, this is going to take me a little time to do, completing his clothes, but we'll fill this in for now so that I have a nice clean surface to look at. And we'll go from there. So yeah, you guys, you just have to make time, man. And it's scary. I know it's scary. I swear to you, I know it's scary. Sometimes it is extremely scary to sort of change, to sort of jump into something new, just to sort of try sometimes, especially if you're used to or you content with the way that life is, or you just kind of made peace with it, right? But there's something more out there for you if you want it. And if you want it, you sort of have to sort of change the way that you view the world, change the way that you view your ability to change that for yourself, right? Lean into your own personal power and then go for it. Because if you don't, it won't get done. You'll spend your whole life talking yourself out of something, and before you know it, you're 40, 50 years old. Or if you're already 40, you're 50 years old, right? You're 50 something years old, and you will have watched your life pass by without at least trying. Now, just because you try doesn't mean that you'll succeed, but it also doesn't mean that you'll fail just because you try. You won't know until you actually go for it and figure out what it is that you want out of your life, and then go from there. Sometimes we just don't know, right? So that's where the pivot comes in. So again, I'll go back to my own personal experience. I think a lot of my freelance career has been sort of evolving what it is that I do as a freelancer, what services I offer, what field within graphic design and illustration I want to work in, and then going from there. That changes, right? I think by default, most people hire, and speaking on a specific client type, right? They will hire a graphic designer specifically for logos. So I've done so many logos in my lifetime, right? But I found that I didn't really like it at first. And I think a lot of that was connected to the fact that I didn't charge what I should have been charging for them. Once I kind of got that out of my system and started to sort of offer them in a much more broader sense. So it's not just a logo, but your whole actual branding. Then it became more satisfying to me. So I switched from doing that. I would do a lot of portraits, of course, on the non-commercial side of it, which have always been a love of mine. Like that, I'll never not love doing a portrait. So that's always been something that I have enjoyed. But as I have progressed and as I've learned more and started sort of made myself aware of more out there in the world, then your views sort of change and your desires change, right? So I'll say, okay, I've done several book covers, specifically comic book covers, but I did a nonfiction book cover 2023, and I was like, you know what? I love this, right? So I love this, being able to sort of design the book cover from the illustration to the graphic design, going through that whole motion. I love being able to do that. And so it shifted into doing book covers, which is something I enjoy. Now, here in another 5 years, there may be something else that comes along that I want to be able to do and to learn. And so I have to be comfortable within myself to say it's okay for me to do that. So I'm saying that to you. If it's something that you want to learn, try it out, right? You never know where that road will take you. But you have to be open and willing to try, open and willing to make mistakes, and open and willing to receive success from that. You know what I mean? If you're in a mindset where you're used to things not working out, sometimes you can already go into a thing thinking that you're going to fail because you failed it so much in life. Maybe that's the feeling, right? But be open to success. Be open to being able to do the thing that you want to do exactly the way that you want to do it, and it working out exactly the way that you want it to work out. That is a possibility as well. So just take a chance on yourself, bet on yourself. Again, it's scary. It gets extremely frightening, right? Sometimes change can be extremely frightening, and that's just that's just the fact. But you don't want to allow the fear to sort of keep you from taking a chance. Sometimes you just got to take the chance. Sometimes you just got to see it for yourself and know that there's something more in the world for you, and then go after it. Right? All right. So I'm again filling in shadows for this thing, talking y'all ears off 90 miles an hour again. But I am paying attention to my reference just a bit. And I will say that this reference is a good one because it kind of lines up with the way that the lighting is on my 3D model. So it works out to my benefit, I would say. So I am just adding in details and things like that. I don't know if I'm settled on the color, so this may change in the coming weeks as we work on this. It may not, we'll see. But again, as I'm doing this, I don't want to take myself so seriously that I'm like, oh, I shouldn't do certain things because it doesn't match the reference. Sometimes you have to be able to play it by ear. Now, what I am finding, what am I doing? Okay. Now, I must have been working on the wrong layer, so we're going to use that tool again to figure out what this is. There it is. There it is. Okay. So yeah, take a chance on yourself. And again, if you want to come back and talk to me about it, I would love to have you on. If you have questions, specifically in the arts, well, I won't say specifically, but especially in the arts, that I can help you guys with, I am more than happy to do that. If you have a question about self-publishing, because I have done self-published a nonfiction book 2021. I have published 2 affirmation journals, and then I just designed some blank journals with the tarot image, a couple of the tarot cards on them. So if you're curious about how that works, learning how to set up your files, even if it's for you to do it yourself in a DIY space, and you're curious about how that works, how to set things up, what to look for, just let me know. I remember having a conversation with an author, I think this time last year, who was having some trouble setting up her files in Canva because she had designed her cover in Canva. She didn't know anything about a bleed and any of that, right? So if you have any of those kinds of questions, let me know. I have been coming across a lot of book festivals. So if that is a resource that if you're a writer and you're looking at getting into some book festivals, and you may want to, I guess, have a list of those, let me know if you want to know about that as I find them. So that was something that I didn't know existed until I think last year. I had no idea. And I don't even know how I got on the list. But I had found that, I think it was a Texas book fair. It's held in Austin. There's one that I've seen that's held in Kentucky. I feel like there's one in Mississippi, but I'm not exactly sure where. I'm not sure exactly where the one in Kentucky is either. But I do from time to time come across different resources in terms of events that happen. I think as you begin to do conventions, for those of you who are into conventions, you'll start to run into the same people, right? Same vendors and things like that. And so you will network and find out other kinds of events. So if there's something that I can help in that realm, just let me know. I think for now, we've talked for like an hour, 15 minutes, and I hope that this was helpful to someone. Again, a lot of times I'm talking to myself, right? Sometimes I got to talk myself through the stuff that I go through as well. I'm certainly can speak from experience when it comes to sort of doubting your own abilities, doubting your ability to change your life to whatever it is that you want to change it to based on whatever you've experienced prior to this very moment. I've been there, done that. I have been just recently, I think last week I showed you guys a sketch that I had done, and I don't know why I was surprised, because I don't know why, sometimes you forget how awesome you are. Sometimes we do that. Sometimes we go through those kinds of things. You start to forget how valuable and how worthy you are in this world, and that you can reach success, whatever that success means for you, if you try. A lot of times it's just a matter of trying and sort of working through those fears and identifying why you're scared, right? So for me, whenever I go into that and start to question myself, start to self-doubt, I'll break that thing down. And that's what my book was about, for any of you guys who were curious. It was called What the Bleeper Shadows. So I wrote that book in 2021, and it was all about working through sort of those old patterns, that old outmoded thinking, all of the things that you program yourself to be, to do, to say, to think, all of those negative habits that we sort of have, that we are acknowledging we have and we want to break up out of. That book is all about sort of navigating that space, right? Through the art of shadow work. So shadow work is just dealing with a sort of the shadow aspects of your personality, of your life. And so a lot of that comes down to, first of all, identifying the feeling, identifying the first time you felt that feeling, and then healing that experience, or healing from that experience, working through that experience. Because sometimes we can be afraid of something and it'll trace back to when we was in 5th grade and somebody laughed at us. So I had an experience, I'll tell you, I had an experience, and I wrote about this in this book. I think I was in the 7th grade or so. I spent the summer with my grandmother in Alabama. And I remember she had us in vacation Bible school. And at that point, I was the type of kid who was always in my own world. And I was always like very studious, right? So anytime there was a question, I was the first one with my hand up. I didn't think anything of it. I was just excited to know the answer. That was just how it went, right? I had absolutely no shame in my game about it. I used to be like super confident. I would be in dance groups. And to me, it didn't even register to me to worry about what other people thought. It just did not register to me. It was just, I was doing whatever I enjoyed and loved, and I was proud of myself, and I was super excited to be answering some questions. So anyhow, we was in vacation Bible school, and mind you, we in South Alabama at that. So we in Southern Alabama, and the accents were different. Now I know I got a little twang. I can't help it. It is what it is. I know I got a little twang in my voice, but these folks was country. And I know it's probably the pot calling the kettle black, but these folks were super country. So anyhow, I'm in this, I think I had to be in seventh grade. I think I was going into the 8th grade. So anyhow, we were down there. They asked a question. We went through the whole vacation Bible thing. We were learning our lessons. And so they had us all the little classes and stuff gather in the sanctuary. And then they had this like family day at the end where your families come in and, they all cheering the kids on or whatever. So the question comes up. We all on teams based on our class. Question comes up. What is accountable? Right? I heard that as, what does it mean to be accountable? I answered because I had just asked my grandma this exact same question because I didn't know what it meant. So I asked her what it meant, and she told me, and I was like, no, what is accountable? I heard, what is accountable? What is accountable? I just asked my grandma that. I was like, Grandma, what's accountable? She was like, it's a person to eat people. I was like, okay, cool. So I'm excited. Got my hand up. I'm cheering. We finna get these points because I think it was a few points from winning. So I was like, okay, cool. What's accountable? Accountable is a person to eat people. And they was like, no, not accountable. What's accountable? And I'm talking about everybody was laughing at my expense. Everybody was laughing at my expense. And at that point, it had never really dawned on me to like worry about what, even when we were in school, people were checking each other and, roasting each other. It just never really, it just wasn't even in my experience. I just didn't care. As long as I was happy being me and excited about what I was doing, I wasn't really concerned about other people laughing at me, right? But these folks was rolling. I'm talking about laughing. And I was so embarrassed, right? So that happened when I was in 7th grade. Fast forward to, I want to say about 2020, okay? I was in this class about past life. I don't recall if we were doing past life regressions or what it was, but it was a class to teach you about your past lives, right? And in this class, the instructor was like, I don't care who you are, you in this class, you're going to participate. So she would just like randomly call on folks. And I remember getting so nervous. I was like, man, I hope. And I remember this happening from that point, from church on to that present point. I was like, man, I'm so nervous. I hope she don't call on me. Prior to that, whenever she would ask folks, I was able to put the pieces together. I knew the answers or whatever, because I'm following along with something I'm interested in. So she called on me, and it was something I ain't had no answer for. Man, when I tell you, my neck was burning. I don't know if y'all ever been nervous and like the back of your neck start tingling and you go through all of that? And I was sweating palms. I'm at home, mind you. I'm at home. We doing this on Zoom. I'm sitting here at this desk I was in pajama. I probably had on a shirt, but like I had on pajama pants. I was at home. I should have been completely comfortable at home. But for whatever reason, I was so doggone nervous. And I'm talking about nervous, right? I was tripping. Listen, 10 later said she never wanted to be called on as a kid. I didn't mind it up until that point. I was like, man. But that lady called on me. She called on me for that class. I'm talking about, I was blushing, face was hot, neck was tingling. I was so nervous, but I could not figure out why. I was like, I'm a grown woman. I was sitting here in my home at my computer. I could easily turn off the camera and still answer, and it wouldn't be no issue. None of that, right? But it all went back to that experience that I had in Southern Alabama when I couldn't understand their accents, right? So I say that to say, in that moment, in that class, I was afraid and I was sort of going through all of these motions and feeling real insecure. And it all came from something that I experienced a good 20 years prior to that, right? So to bring all that home, sometimes we can have experiences in our childhood that will affect us into adulthood, and we don't exactly even put it together. A lot of times we don't even see it until you sat down and actually examine the way that things are and become aware that something is happening. So at that time, I was sitting there like, why am I tripping? Right? And then I went through the motions. And I had gone through the whole thing. I was like, okay, let me figure this out. I decided in that moment I was gonna figure it out because we ain't doing this, and I'm at home, right? I could see it. It would make more sense if I was actually in a classroom setting. And even then, as an adult, if I don't know something, I don't know, right? But at that time, for whatever reason, I had turned into that 12-year-old, and I was like sweating, palms was sweating, neck was burning. I'm talking about really going through it. So I say all that to say that a lot of times we will experience something in our early in life, and it ain't just early in life. It's just that a lot happens when we are at that impressionable age. And so a lot of the way that we live our lives into adulthood is often shaped by the way that we came up as kids, right? The experiences that we had as kids. So I had that experience, and it was shaping the way that I was approaching this new experience, which was pretty much the same thing. I was just older, and it was a different classroom setting, and it was a different topic and all of that, but it was the same feeling. So I was examining why I had that feeling, where it came from, and then I was like, look, girl, it wasn't your fault you couldn't understand their accents, right? And that's coming from somebody with an accent, or so I'm told, right? So I know I got a little twang in my voice. But you work through those situations, you work through those memories, and then you come out of it. So I'm talking about, I was doing it in real time. It was like really, once my mic was muted, I was listening, but I was like, all right, we ain't gonna be do this tomorrow. When I come back to this class, when she call on me again, or if I have another chance to speak, like I can't be going through this same thing. So I worked on it in real time, and literally the very next day, I think something happened, and we were talking about experiences from childhood. So I was able to actually pull on that experience, pull on that exact same moment, and then relay it back to what was happening. And from then, it settled into, if I don't know something, I don't know it. I don't know. You ask me something, I don't know. I don't feel no shame about it. My neck don't get to burning, and I don't get to blushing and carrying on and doing all of that. But I had to recognize where that came from. And so in doing that, you're able to sort of come out of it. So you have to become aware of your own habits, your own thoughts, and all of the things that you experience. And then if you're patient enough with yourself, sit down and figure out where that all started, and then work on that. And work on it and speak to yourself as if you were talking to that child. If it was, maybe you had a traumatic birth or something like that as an adult, speak to that person who was laying on that table giving birth and was having a hard time or having a difficult medical experience, so that when you go into the next experience, you're not sort of automatically shutting down and automatically hoping for the worst. So you have to do that so that when it's time for us to define what success is, that 12-year-old isn't stopping you from getting that success, right? Or that 17-year-old isn't stopping you from moving forward and loving wisely and doing whatever it is that you have to do in order for you to move forward. All right. So that was a long-winded story. I hope that somebody got something out of it. Whoever needed to hear it, I'm sure heard it. So we're going to drop leave this here where we are. I didn't do a whole lot. I just kind of worked on his suit. Not exactly happy with it, but that's okay. It is what it is. We'll get there. We're gonna come back, I think, Tuesday. I'm not gonna stream on Wednesday for our normal bring your own project, but probably will stream on Tuesday around the same time, 12:45. So if you like a little more chill live stream where I'm just sort of working and I get into that zone, I don't know if I'm gonna go 3 hours or not. Right? This last Wednesday we went for 3 hours just because I was really in the zone. Like, I was talking to my son, was here with me, so I was talking to him and helping him with his studies and things like that, but I was also working and just sort of living and working as I would if I weren't live. So it was very good. Very good experience. I was able to get quite a bit done. So we're going to pull back from Wednesday. We're going to go Tuesday, and then next Sunday we'll be back here for Paint With Me Live. So again, if you're watching this live or the replay, I really appreciate all of you guys for being here, and I certainly appreciate each one of y'all for being here in the chat. That makes my heart smile so much to have you here, and I hope I hope that y'all can learn from my experience. I really want to see that you guys succeed in, again, whatever success means for you. And I want to hear about it. So if you have something that you want to do, a dream that you want to try and fulfill, if there's something that I can do to help you in that, let me know. My email is open. I think all of that's going to be listed down in the description or in the about section of YouTube. So think about it, email is listed there. If you would like to email me, if you would like to send me a DM on where I get DMs, Instagram, for sure I'll check. Facebook from time to time. I'm not super active in DMs on Facebook, but if you would like to reach out for me there, I'll see it at some point, right? I'm on Threads quite heavily active there. So if you'd like to reach out for me, my doors are open. So until then, I hope to see you guys Tuesday. But if I do not, I hope you all have a happy, creative, and prosperous week and a happy holiday. Until next time, peace.